Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through sources, notes, research, all sorts of things to bring you the core insights on fascinating topics. Today, we're diving into a literary classic, one many people think of mainly as, well, a romance.
Right.
You picture the grand estates, the witty banter, maybe that dramatic proposal scene.
The Colin Firth version,
Yep,
maybe.
exactly. But while Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy, their love story, it's totally iconic, it's really just scratching the surface, isn't it? There's so much more underneath.
Oh, absolutely. We get swept up in the courtship, the back and forth, the happy ending, which is great, of course. But if you only focus on that, you miss this incredibly rich, detailed world Jane Austen built. Pride and Prejudice is just this sharp, often really funny look at Georgian society and all its rules.
That's exactly what we want to explore today. Our mission for this deep dive is to look at Pride and Prejudice as a whole thing. We want to uncover those keen observations about society, about character, about, the human condition that still feels so relevant, even though it was published over 200 years ago.
It's kind of amazing how relevant it stays.
It really is. We'll get into the themes of class, the expectations on women, which were pretty intense, social mobility, or the lack of it sometimes, and, of course, the real cost of Pride and Prejudice. We'll definitely look beyond just Lizzie and Darcy, too.
Yeah, the whole supporting cast is crucial for understanding the world she's painting.
And you mentioned how long ago it was published. It's fascinating to think about how it actually came together. She first drafted it around 1796. When she was barely 21.
Yeah, imagine that, just bursting with youthful energy, probably noticing everything, all the little hypocrisies and absurdities of society around her.
And then she sets it aside for like 15 years and then revises it, finishes it, and gets it published in 1813.
That combination, it's really something. That initial spark, that youthful observation mixed with the polish and, well, the craft of a more mature writer. People often say that's why it has this distinct superiority in point of construction.
Yeah.
It's not just charming, it's incredibly well built.
That blend really makes it work, doesn't it? Okay, so to really get into the world Elizabeth and Darcy operate in, we kind of have to start at home base. The Bennet household, which is, let's be honest, often a foundation of folly and frustration.
Definitely. And maybe the root of a lot of it is Mr. Bennet himself and his own marriage. It was just fundamentally ill-suited, wasn't it?
Totally. The book says he was initially captivated by youth and beauty and that appearance of good humor. Sounds familiar, maybe.
Yes. A tale as old as time. But it was superficial. And apparently that attraction just fizzled out fast. It led to the end of all real affection because, well, he realized his wife had a weak understanding and a liberal mind.
Ouch. Pretty harsh words.
They are, but they show how this initial bad choice, marrying for looks and maybe charm over substance, had these huge, long-lasting effects, not just on their own happiness, but really on the whole family dynamic, the daughter's prospects, everything.
So he makes this bad choice, realizes it, and then what? He just checks out. His
Yeah.
coping mechanism is hiding in his library.
Right, with his books and his wit.
His wit, which is brilliant. The lines are amazing, but he uses it on his family, especially Mrs. Bennet, that famous bit about her nerves.
Oh, yeah. I have a high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends.
I have heard you mention them with consideration these 20 years at least. It's hilarious, but it's also incredibly detached, isn't it?
It really is. It shows his resignation, but also his failure. The book points out he fails to preserve the respectability of his daughters or even try to enlarge the mind of his wife. He's funny, he's smart, but he's ultimately a pretty negligent father and husband.
Yeah, that wit becomes like a wall. He uses it to deflect, to show his contempt instead of actually, guiding his family or helping them navigate the world.
Which makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much does his detachment, his prioritizing his own amusement over, say, Lydia's upbringing, actually contribute to her later recklessness? His stepping back has real consequences.
Absolutely. Which leads us right to Mrs. Bennet, the driving force of anxiety in that house.
The architect of anxiety, I like that.
Her whole purpose in life, the novel just lays it out flat. The business of her life was to get her daughters married. Full stop.
And her comfort. Visiting and news. Gossip, basically.
Right. So this constant frantic worry about finding husbands for the girls, it just fuels so much of the plot. It's this background hum of stress at Longbourn.
And those nerves she's always complaining about. She fancied herself nervous whenever she was discontented. It's not really a medical thing, is it? It's more like a tool.
Yeah, a way to get attention, maybe exert some control, complain about things. A performance?
A performance born out of her lack of real power, perhaps, but she also just lacks decorum, tact, social awareness. Elizabeth is constantly mortified by her.
Oh, totally. Remember her unqualified abuse of her own children? Unless one might be marrying well, like Jane, then suddenly she's all praise.
Right.
And her loud talk at Netherfield, complaining about Charlotte Lucas being plain in public. It makes you cringe just reading it.
It really does.
And then her reaction to Lydia's marriage, the scandalous one. Once it's actually settled, she's overjoyed, calls it a triumph. It shows exactly where her priorities lie. Any marriage, even a disgraceful one, is a win because it gets a daughter off her hands.
It sounds awful, and her methods are vulgar and often backfire. But you have to remember the context, right? That the fear for her daughter's future was real. The entailment on Longbourn meant if Mr. Bennet died, they'd be practically destitute.
That's true. The estate goes to Mr. Collins, the cousin. The girls get very little.
So while she's often ridiculous and embarrassing, her anxiety comes from a genuine place of economic vulnerability. Austen uses her to show both the absurdity and the real desperation that those social rules created for women.
Okay, let's turn to the daughters, the 5 Bennet sisters. They really give us this whole range of what it meant to be a woman back then, starting with Jane.
Ah, Jane. Just pure goodness, isn't she? Sweetness and disinterestedness, the book says. Really angelic.
Almost too good. Her benevolence of her heart makes her want to see the best in everyone. She wants to think all the world respectable, even when Elizabeth's like, no, maybe not.
Yeah, she believes Wickham at first, doesn't she? She just can't imagine someone seeming so nice could be bad. She gets genuinely upset hearing anything negative about anyone.
It makes her lovely, but also maybe a bit naive for the world they live in.
Definitely. Jane is kind of the moral ideal. Gentle, sincere, kind, but maybe too passive. She needs someone like Elizabeth or later Bingley to kind of shield her a bit. Goodness alone wasn't always enough to navigate those social currents. You needed some discernment, too.
Which Elizabeth has in spades, sometimes too much. But before we get to her, what about Mary, the middle sister, often forgotten or just seen as the awkward one?
Poor Mary. She's deep in the study of thorough base and human nature, trying so hard to be intellectual, you know.
Yeah, learning complex musical theory while everyone else is focused on dancing. But it doesn't really connect. She ends up spouting these threadbare moral sayings that don't really land.
And that performance at the Netherfield ball. Oh dear. Her weak voice and unaffected awkwardness, it just highlights how isolated she is, how her attempts at accomplishment don't translate into social ease.
Austen was apparently a bit unkind to her, wasn't she? The source says Austen privately decided Mary would end up marrying one of Mr. Phillips's clerks, kind of damning her with faint praise or maybe just a very average future.
It suggests that intellectual pursuits for women, if they weren't combined with social graces or, frankly, charm, weren't really valued in the way Mary hoped they would be. She tries hard, but lacks the self-awareness to see how she comes across. It's a subtle critique of what accomplishment really meant then.
And then Kitty and Lydia, the youngest two, basically folly personified.
Frivolity and recklessness, yeah. They are completely obsessed with the militia officers. Any man in a red coat is exciting.
Lydia especially, described as stout, well-grown, fine complexion, good-humored, but also a flirt too in the worst and meanest degree. That's pretty harsh for a 15-year-old.
It is, but Austen's setting up the danger. Their ignorance and emptiness of her mind, talking about Lydia there, makes her completely vulnerable. She can't see the universal contempt her desperate need for attention will bring. It's foreshadowing, really.
And Mr. Bennet just waves it off. He thinks Lydia is too poor to be an object of prey. How wrong could he be?
Tragically wrong. And this is where the parental neglect really comes home to roost, isn't it? Mr. Bennet's witty detachment and Mrs. Bennet's frantic matchmaking both fail these younger girls spectacularly.
Yeah. Lydia's ignorance isn't just a personality flaw. It's a direct result of not being taught better, not being guided, not understanding the risks.
Exactly. The parents' failings detachment on one side, obsession with superficial matches on the other, create the very recklessness that nearly ruins them all. Katie and Lydia are like walking, talking examples of what happens when guidance is missing.
It's a powerful cautionary tale woven right into the fabric of the family. Okay, let's shift focus a bit, broaden out from the Bennets, and look at marriage itself in this society. It wasn't always about romance, was it? Often it was a calculation, comfort, consequence.
Very much a calculation, especially for women without their own money. And Charlotte Lucas, Elizabeth's friend, is the prime example of this pragmatic approach.
Her philosophy is just so stark. Happiness in marriage is entirely a matter of chance.
Wow, pretty bleak, right?
Yeah.
But she follows it up with, essentially, Secure the man first, then you'll have leisure for falling in love as much as she chooses. Get the security, worry about feelings later, if ever.
Which is why she accepts Mr. Collins. Mr. Collins. Elizabeth is horrified.
Understandably, Elizabeth sees it as Charlotte sacrificing every better feeling to worldly advantage. A humiliating picture, she calls it.
Charlotte makes it work, doesn't she? In her own way. She manages Collins, often by just ignoring him or sending him off to his garden. She creates this great air of comfort at Hunsford Parsonage.
She does. It shows her practical intelligence, her ability to make the best of a frankly unappealing situation. Is it sad? Maybe. Is it smart, given her limited options as a plain woman with no fortune? Also maybe. Austen doesn't really condemn her.
It definitely raises that question, was it surrender or was it savvy adaptation? Making a strategic move in a game with very strict rules.
Exactly. She finds agency within the constraints.
Yeah.
A different kind of strength than Elizabeth's.
Speaking of Mr. Collins,
No.
oh boy, the man himself, he's like the ultimate formulaic suitor.
A masterpiece of awkwardness and self-importance.
His reasons for wanting to marry are just laid out like a checklist. He tells Elizabeth, first, it's the right thing for a clergyman to set an example. Secondly, it'll make him happy. And thirdly,
which perhaps always ought to have been my first, that Lady Catherine de Bourgh wishes me to marry. His patroness's opinion trumps everything, even his own supposed happiness.
It's incredible. And his plan to marry one of the Bennet girls, he frames it as amends for inheriting their house because of the entail.
Right, like he's doing them a huge favor. But it's totally self-serving. It makes him look good, solves his marriage problem, keeps the property tidy, and pleases Lady Catherine. Win-win for him.
So when he proposes to Elizabeth, it's just peak Collins. So formal, so pompous, listing all his qualifications, assuming she'll be thrilled.
And then her refusal just completely short-circuits his brain. He literally cannot compute it. He thinks she's just being coy, playing hard to get.
Assures her he understands female delicacy and he'll ask again. Because, as the book says, he thought too well of himself to believe she could actually mean no. It's hilarious, but also quite telling about entitlement.
Austen nails him. That description, altogether a mixture of pride and obsequiousness, self-importance and humility, it's perfect. He embodies the absurdity of clinging to social hierarchy for your self-worth. He's funny, but he's also a critique.
Okay, so we have Charlotte's practical compromise, Collins's absurdity, but then we get to Lydia and Wickham, and that's not compromise or comedy, that's just disaster.
Absolute catastrophe. It's the crisis point of the novel. The dreadful news of her elopement with Wickham, first thinking they're heading to Scotland to marry, then finding out they're hiding out in London, unmarried. It's potentially irreparable ruin for the whole family's reputation.
Which, back then, was everything, especially for the unmarried daughters.
Everything. And what's so jarring is Lydia's reaction, or lack thereof. She shows no remorse. None. She comes back married, eventually, and she's all clamorous happiness, acting like she's won the lottery.
Sees it as a triumph. She's completely oblivious, utterly without feeling about the shame and panic she caused, her obsession with officers, her flirting. It just led straight here.
She just wanted the attention and the status of being married, no matter the cost to anyone else. And Wickham, well, he's the catalyst.
He starts out seeming so charming, doesn't he? Elizabeth is completely taken in.
Oh yeah, his amiable appearance fools almost everyone at first. But Darcy's letter blows that wide open.
Reveals the truth. He's a gambler, deeply in debt. Tried to elope with Darcy's 15-year-old sister, Georgiana, purely for her massive fortune.
He's labeled designing, artful, mercenary, and utterly unprincipled.
Right.
A complete con man, basically, using his charm to manipulate people, especially women.
So this disastrous situation only gets resolved through intervention. Mr. Gardner steps in, finds them.
And Darcy, secretly. He pays off Wickham's massive debts and basically bribes him into marrying Lydia to salvage the situation and save the Bennet family name.
Which is a huge turning point for Darcy, but for the Bennets, it's this deeply mortifying conviction, isn't it? They are literally forced to rejoice in this scandalous marriage.
They have to pretend it's all okay, even though they know Lydia and Wickham have almost zero chance of happiness together, and the marriage itself is built on disgrace and financial coercion. It shows the extreme lengths families had to go to protect reputation, even if it meant swallowing immense pride and compromising their own values.
Okay, this feels like the perfect moment to really tackle the core themes. Pride, prejudice, unmasking endearances. This is the heart of the book.
It really is. And we start with Darcy, who is just Exhibit A for pride initially. That first impression at the Meryton Ball.
Awful. Proudest, most disagreeable man there. Refusing to dance, making that snippy comment about Elizabeth being only tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me. Oof.
That immediately sets him up as arrogant, and crucially, it sets up Elizabeth's prejudice against him. It's a brilliant economical way to establish the conflict.
And his pride isn't just personal attitude, it's deeply rooted in class. He admits later his main objection to Bingley marrying Jane was the Bennet family's inferiority of connections.
And the want of propriety, basically. Mrs. Bennet's and the younger sister's embarrassing behavior.
Yeah.
He judges the whole family based on their social standing and manners, feeling inherently superior because of his own rank and wealth.
It's that ingrained aristocratic arrogance, isn't it? Believing birth automatically makes you better.
Exactly. And if Darcy represents that pride, then his aunt, Lady Catherine de Bourgh, is like that pride turned up to 11. She's the absolute peak of it.
Oh, Lady Catherine. Reckoned proud by many people, the book says. Understatement of the year. She just delivers opinions like they're royal decrees.
Her affability and condescension. It's pure performance based on her rank. She expects everyone to bow down, literally and figuratively. She thinks her status gives her the right to run everyone's lives.
Which she tries to do with Elizabeth. That scene where she storms into Longbourn to forbid Elizabeth from marrying Darcy is just iconic.
It's amazing. She insults Elizabeth's family connections so unequal to his own, calls Elizabeth an obstinate, headstrong girl. She genuinely believes she has the authority to prevent the marriage simply because she disapproves.
She's everything Elizabeth hates about that upper-class snobbery, the embodiment of oppressive social hierarchy.
A fantastic character study, though.
Yeah.
Power without empathy. Believing your social standing gives you the right to dictate others' happiness. It's a stark portrayal of that class prejudice.
Okay, so that's the pride side, largely Darcy and Lady Catherine. But then there's Elizabeth's prejudice, which is just as powerful a force initially.
Maybe even more blinding in some ways. Her dislike of Darcy, stemming from his initial snub and her own confidence in her judgment, makes her completely ready to believe Wickham's sob story.
She laps it up, finds Wickham even handsomer as he's telling his lies about Darcy's supposed cruelty. She's so convinced she's right about Darcy being awful, she doesn't question Wickham at all.
Her pride in her own discernment blinds her to the truth. That's the irony.
Until Darcy's letter, that's the big turning point, isn't it?
Huge. He lays out the facts about Wickham, about his own actions regarding Jane and Bingley, and it forces Elizabeth to confront her own mistakes. That moment of self-realization is incredible.
How despicably have I acted, I who have prided myself on my discernment. I have been blind, partial, prejudiced, absurd. That's raw self-awareness.
It's the pivot point of the whole novel. She finally sees past her prejudice, starts to understand Darcy, and, just as importantly, understands her own capacity for error.
So this realization sets both of them on a path of evolution, right? They both have to change.
Definitely. Darcy's love for Elizabeth chips away at his pride. You see it in his awkwardness at Rosings when she calls him out. He's not as supremely confident anymore.
And then the big one, secretly sorting out the Lydia mess. That's a huge act of humility and care, going against his initial judgment of the Bennets, doing it for Elizabeth even when he couldn't regard or esteem Lydia herself.
It shows he's capable of acting selflessly, overcoming his pride for someone he loves. He's learning humility.
And Elizabeth's journey mirrors his. She moves from hating him to being shocked by the letter, then feeling gratitude and esteem for what he did for Lydia.
And that gratitude and esteem become the good foundations of affection. She starts to see his hidden good qualities, the integrity beneath the frosty exterior.
So it's not just opposites attract, they fundamentally change each other. They both have to overcome their core flaws, his pride, her prejudice, to get together.
Exactly. Their love story is their character development. It's about growth, self-awareness, challenging your own biases. That's why it's so much more than just a romance.
Beyond the main couple and the immediate family drama, the supporting cast really adds layers to the social commentary, don't they?
Oh, hugely. Take the Gardiners, Elizabeth's aunt and uncle. They're like a breath of fresh air.
Totally. Described as sensible, gentlemanlike, amiable, intelligent, elegant. They're the picture of respectable, well-adjusted, middle-class life.
A massive contrast to Mrs. Bennet's chaos or Mr. Bennet's detachment. They represent stability and good sense.
And they're so supportive. They take Jane to London when she's heartbroken. They try to warn Elizabeth gently about Wickham.
And crucially, they're the ones who step up during the Lydia crisis. They handle the practicalities, the search, the negotiations. Mr. Gardiner does anyway when Mr. Bennet is paralyzed and Mrs. Bennet is hysterical.
They show what responsible family support looks like. Calm, practical, and genuinely caring. Their intervention is absolutely vital.
And their presence really underscores that good sense and good character aren't limited to the aristocracy. In fact, they seem much more evident in the Gardiners than in, say, Lady Catherine. It poses that question. What if the Bennets had been more like the Gardiners?
Right. Then on the other side, you've got Bingley's sisters, Caroline and Louisa.
The anti-Gardiners, maybe? Peak snobbery.
Absolutely. Their main goal seems to be keeping Bingley away from Jane because the Bennets are vulgar relations and not wealthy or connected enough.
Caroline especially wants Bingley to marry Georgiana Darcy. It's pure social climbing. Marrying up is the only thing that matters.
And they totally misjudge everyone. They look down on Elizabeth and Jane, ignoring their good qualities while fawning over Darcy purely because of his status and fortune.
They represent that hollow superficiality, the obsession with rank and wealth over actual character. Austen uses them as a pretty sharp critique of that kind of social ambition.
And speaking of status and wealth, we have to touch on social mobility and that crucial plot point, the entailment.
Yes, the entail is huge. The fact that Longbourn, the Bennet family home, has to pass to Mr. Collins, a distant male relative because there are no sons, that dictates so much.
It makes marriage not just desirable for the Bennet girls, but essential. It's their only route to financial security.
It highlights the vulnerability of women then. Without male heirs, property, security, it all goes elsewhere. Marriage was the primary economic pathway.
But Austen does show a little bit of mobility as possible, right? With Sir William Lucas, Charlotte's dad.
Yeah, he was formerly in trade, not born into the gentry, but he got a knighthood, so he moved up a step on the social ladder.
Though he still seems pretty awestruck by Lady Catherine's rank.
Oh, definitely. It shows mobility was possible, but the established hierarchy was still very powerful. You can climb a bit, but you still knew your place relative to the real aristocracy.
So we've unpacked the family, the marriages, the pride, the prejudice, the social structures. After all this, why does this book still grab us? Why does Pride and Prejudice endure?
Well, I think a huge part of it is just how timeless the observations about human nature are. That quote about the inconsistency of all human characters and how little you can rely on appearances, that feels true today.
Elizabeth's realization near the end, there are a few people whom I really love, and still fewer of whom I think well. That's pretty cynical, but also relatable sometimes.
It captures that disillusionment we can all feel when we see people's flaws or realize they aren't who we thought they were. Appearances versus reality, judging character. These are perpetual human dilemmas.
And it really is more than the romance. It's this sharp social critique, isn't it? The limited options for women, the class pressures, the danger of snap judgments, the importance of looking past the surface.
Absolutely. And you see echoes of those same pressures today, maybe in different forms. Pressure to present a certain image online, judging people based on career or status. The challenges women still face balancing personal goals and societal expectations. The core issues haven't vanished.
The power of growth, too. That's central, right? Elizabeth and Darcy both have to seriously confront their own flaws and change.
Yes. Their journey isn't just about falling in love, it's about becoming better people through falling in love and challenging each other. They have to gain self-awareness, overcome their biases. That's a powerful model for personal growth in any time.
And that other thread we talked about, the parental neglect. Mr. and Mrs. Bennet's failings having direct consequences for Lydia's folly and indecorum.
It's a stark cautionary tale, isn't it? How parental choices, detachment, obsession, mismatched values ripple outwards and affect children's lives profoundly. That still resonates, the impact of family dynamics on shaping individuals.
So, summing it all up, what should you, listening now, take away from this deep dive?
I think it's that Pride and Prejudice is just this masterclass in observing people in society. It digs into first impressions, prejudice, social climbing, but also love, humility, and the possibility of real change. It holds up a mirror to us, to our own potential for both foolishness and growth.
So, here's a final thought to leave you with. Think about our world now. All the social pressures, the curated online lives, the quick judgments we make. How many Lydias chasing superficial validation or Collinses obsessed with status do we still see around us? And maybe more personally, how many of us are sometimes still a bit blind, partial, and prejudiced, like Elizabeth was, making assumptions, missing the real worth of people because of our own biases? What stands out most to you from Austen's world, and what insights will you maybe carry into your own?